Maybe it's going live, and it is live. All right, so we have a book that is going to blend in with the green screen behind me, and that's why it essentially looks like this, but organize tomorrow today. So as I mentioned on yesterday's book review, so if you have any questions, obviously leave in the comments below, but if you watched yesterday's book review on the procrastination puzzle, then you'd understand that there's been a series of books that have really influenced the way that I think, the way that I am, the way that I schedule my events. How's it going, Erwin? How we doing? Skinny Jeans, happy Tuesday. Yes, it is. These books that I'm really dialing in right now, I could tell you that I used to do Audible, okay? Audible is great. You know, Audible is great when I'm preparing all my clothes, my gym clothes, my bag, and my nutrition, when I'm cooking, when I'm cleaning dishes and things like that. And it's in, but I can't really read. But if I'm traveling around the city and I'm going between appointments, I could tell you right now that a quality book and reading through it is so much better. I read so much slower than the average person, and I read so much less than I would on Audible, but just the actual physical presence of dialing in things when you read it instead of listen to it, I can't recommend it enough. And it's probably been 2 years since I've really went on a rampage of books. Right now I have, and I'll be right back, Joseph Campbell. This is the companion, so essentially this book is about the best of Joseph Campbell, so obviously the hero of 1,000 Faces, and the hero's journey is essentially all about Joseph Campbell. So let's get right into this. I have a slew of points that I want to get to. The first thing that I noticed in the book is that he's worked with the top athletes, and he's worked with, he pretty much gave the credibility in the opening chapter. So if you have any doubt on who he is, because I didn't know who he was, then you're like, okay, this guy actually helped a team go to the World Series based on mental toughness. So let's get into it. So number one is the day before, and obviously the title talks about it, is that you have to organize the next day, the day before. This is something that I sort of did, but not really. I didn't really think about it, but this is what he says, is that you have to, every single day before, obviously the day before, is that you identify your one must and your three most important. So your one must is if everything goes to shit. And obviously we've already talked about it. You know, your one thing, it's by Gary Keller, it's Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy, is that you have to understand that the number one thing for me is prospecting. That's it. From 9 to 10 a.m., the rest of the day afterwards can go terribly, but I can have 5 closings and literally feel amazing. I have all this money flowing into my bank account. This is great. But the problem is, in my industry, is that if I am not prospecting, I'm actually setting myself up for failure. Not now, not next week, and not in a month. It's in 3 months. Okay? So that's the biggest thing for me, is that if after the day is done and I've made all this money based on all these closings that I went to, it doesn't matter because I didn't prospect. And that's my number one thing. That's it. And then he adds in 3 most important, okay? Brian Tracy has also said, what are the 10 things that you really want to do this year? Narrow it down to 5 and then pick just one. And that's it. You know, what's his name? Zuckerberg also said that if he does 3 things for a year, that's a big year. Obviously, you know, controversial figure right there. Every day, no matter what, take action on your one must. And the one thing that he keeps on bringing back is just start. It's not finishing, it's not the outcome, just start on it. And ironically enough is that I haven't taken what he said to heart on this. I've done it, I've just started. Because if you're not in the greatest of emotions and moods and everything else, like I talked about yesterday, is that motivation is crap, is that if you don't feel like making prospecting calls, it's really hard to pick up the phone, put it on, and try and get business. But with what he's saying is just dial once. Just do that one dial. If it's a blog post, just look at your computer and put words onto the page. If it's creating a video or creating content or whatever the thing is it's about the start. It's all about the start. This is the one area that I've actually taken when I'm waking up. You know, this morning I woke up at 4:30. I actually felt pretty refreshed. Is that I've noticed that I don't need 8 hours, and actually I sleep worse when I have 8 hours. I only need about 7. And this is the thing, is that I woke up at 4:30, snoozed it, and then got out of bed, took my heart rate variability, heart rate variability, which is a great app. HRV training, if you want to know the app. And essentially, I know that once I leave my house, I'm fine. It's just getting out of the door. Getting out of the door, onto the subway, and I'm at the gym, I'm going to perform. Moving on. Trim the time fat. Attack open time, prioritize priorities. This is something that I noticed earlier this year, is that I didn't prioritize priorities. So everything was a priority. Everything. It was just the same category. And essentially, this is the thing, and this is the biggest takeaway that you'll get from this video, is that if there's an Instagram app on your phone, or there's any social media, it doesn't really matter, or anything that distracts you, is that as you're looking at it, catch yourself. And this is the thing, is that I would catch myself maybe last year, and I would keep on scrolling. This year I said, dude, you're on Instagram. You don't need to be on Instagram. So earlier this year I said that's a big distraction. YouTube, I put up something called Stay Focused, which is a Chrome extension, and it only allows me 10 minutes of YouTube. And typically this is the only amount of YouTube that I could do, is when I'm going live right now. So trim the time fat. And then moving on to that is that as you get more successful, your time blocks go from 2 hours to 1 hour to half an hour to 15 minutes to 10 minutes to 5 minutes. So in other words, the most successful people think in the matter of seconds. Seconds. They don't think in the matter of 10, 15 minutes. They think of 30 seconds, what can I do right now? And I started thinking about that last week, and I was probably the most productive I've ever been last week, is because I said it's 2:30 p.m. and I could be doing something that's really low priority right now, that's fun and it's easy and it's engaging and I get to check it off my list, or I could do one of my most important. Okay, it's not my must. I already took care of my must, which is prospecting, but my most important. Moving on, productivity isn't being busy. This is extremely important. This is something that I took to heart. Productivity isn't being busy, nor is it doing the most amount of tasks. It's doing your one must. For me, I always thought if you get as much done during the day as I used to, that I was good. I was productive. But I wasn't actually checking off the boxes. I wasn't actually bringing in business. I wasn't actually taking my business to the next level. I was improving the website. I was improving the videos. I was getting a video editor. I was getting all these things that it wasn't my one must. And on top of that is that being busy, a lot of people say, man, I don't have any time. You just haven't prioritized health, or you haven't prioritized prospecting, or you haven't prioritized reading, or something like that. You have the time. You know, like the girl to my right, let me just take a sip of water. While I was on the treadmill, you know, she's always talking about, yeah, I don't have time. And I'm thinking in my mind, you got plenty of time right now to listen to an audiobook, but she's watching Shameless, you know? So it's really all about accountability. Moving on. The more successful you become, the more losses you'll accrue because the quality of competition. Let me say that again. This is incredible. The more successful you become, the more losses. So in other words, the more successful you become, the more losses you actually incur because the quality of the competition increases. If you're competing for a $400,000 studio to get the exclusive, that's totally different than a $10 million townhouse or a $15 million penthouse. Okay, so in other words, if you're trying to get the listing in real estate, $400,000, people are like, whatever, not a big deal. But the people that are competing at 10 and 15 million, they're dialed in. They've been in the industry for years. They know exactly what to say. They are good at influencing and sales and questions and rapport, objection handling. They are just professionals. So that's interesting, is that the more successful you become, the more losses you'll incur. The last two is consistency over outcome. I've talked about this many times. I'm not going to go into this, but the consistency, and I know this in regards to training. I've read two pretty much textbooks on triathlon training, and both of them have emphasized that consistency is everything. Consistency is better than duration. So there's three ways to go over training, and really this is any habit, okay? So the first one is, how often do you go? That's consistency. Number two is, how long do you go? So if I'm at the gym, do I go for 10 minutes? Do I go for half an hour? If I'm prospecting, do I go for 15 minutes? Do I prospect for an hour? Okay, any habit is, how often do you do it, how long do you do it, and then how hard do you do it. In other words, I could prospect and be like, hey, are you looking to sell? No. Hi, are you looking to sell? No. Hi, you look. That's not intensity, okay? So it's consistency, which is how often, duration, which is the length of whatever habit you're doing, and it's the intensity. So I could bike just like lolly-dolling, or I could go really hard and intense, okay? That could be in prospecting. Do you handle the objections? Do you go in, every single call is important? That's intensity, okay? But out of those three, the most important of all time, and I know this because they say if you don't want burnout, if you don't want to get injured, it's all about consistency over anything else and about outcome. And the last thing is, this also hit home because a lot of people, they want different results. And if you guys have any questions, I'll leave it down there. This is the thing. If you want different results, you have to be a different person. That sounds too easy and trite. And I hope you understand that if you want to be something different, if you want to make more money, if you want to have influence, if you want a better body, you have to be better than average. You have to be better than who you are right now. Okay? You know how many people are walking around the world expecting different results and they're doing the exact same fucking thing every single day? I want a girlfriend. I want more money. I should have a bigger car. I want a bigger house. I want more business. I want a better body. I want to eat healthy. You're doing the same thing every day. You're doing the same thing every day. And you want something different? Get out of here. Just unsubscribe right now. It's really what it comes down to. When I figured that out, when someone told me and then it just hit home again, why would I expect different results and I'm caring about the website when I'm not even prospecting? Why would I expect more people to work with me if I'm worried about my videos when I'm not actually asking for referrals? Like, Charles, what are you thinking, dude? Like, get it through your big fat Irish head. So it's the same thing with you guys, and it's the same thing with me, is that if I want to be great, I have to be great. In everything. It's not like there is so much competition at the bottom, and there's even more competition being average. At the elite level, you just have to be a little bit better. And I'll leave you with this, is that David Goggins has talked about it. I've listened to his audiobook. I'm going on probably 15, 20 times right now. And he said something very interesting. There's something in there, very controversial potentially, and he calls it taking souls. Taking souls, which is you have someone that is your enemy. It is the person you're competing against. That person could be inside, it could be a competitor. And he actually, when you're doing an endurance race, it's mainly inside, okay? But if you're doing a competition, say a team or whatever, listen, it was the same thing in rugby. I wanted to rip the guy's head off that I was playing against. At the end of the game, we were high-fiving, cheersing, drinking together. But during that game, it was competition. It was on. I wanted to win, and they wanted to win. Okay, and it's the same thing during any kind of competition. Listen, I may like all the real estate agents that I deal with, well, not all of them, but a lot of them. But when it comes down to a listing, I want that listing just as much as you want that listing, okay? So he calls it taking souls. And I've noticed, so the gym class that I go to in the morning is very intense, okay? It's Tabata, it's Metcon. You go 30 seconds, or actually some of them are a minute, really, really hard, and then you have 10 seconds off. And you go 1 minute, and that's for 45 minutes. It's crazy. I'm drenched. There's a puddle of sweat and everything else. And these are not, I'm using 20, 25 pounds, sometimes 30-pound weights. You know, this isn't like, you know, going to the playground. And what I notice is that when I sit in the front row, that's the best competition. Those are the best people. And there's a huge mirror right there. And I'm looking at the people to my right and my left. And he calls it taking souls, is that you just have to last 1 second longer. It's not being way out in front. It's just being 1 second faster. It's doing one more rep. And he says the reason being is that they're comparing themselves with you. And if they see that they're inching back a little bit, their mental capacity isn't as good as yours. And you know what I noticed this today is that I actually am a better second half person than I am in the first half. I'm a Jets fan, but I'm like a Tom Brady. I come out in the second half and I say, let's perform. The first half of the class, I'm bitching and moaning and complaining. My muscles hurt, my knees, my shoulders. It's all nonsense, okay? The second half, dude, I am crushing it because I'm now noticing that they are lagging behind. And then I just say, step it up, step it up. I'm not saying taking souls. It's his concept, but I'm owning it and saying, I just need to last 1 second more. So I highly recommend the multitude of books that I just talked about. If you actually read this over the course of this year, it's not in the next month, it's not in the next week. Stop having the mindset that I used to have, which is I need to get it done now, and if I don't get it done, this is, you know what, and I'll leave you with this, and I'll talk about the books to read, is that I was on the treadmill. It was a 45-minute treadmill at the exact same pace. I had no TV, I had no headphones, I had no entertainment. Sit on a treadmill or jog on a treadmill for 45 minutes, okay? Do that. See where your mind goes. Is it looking at the clock? Is it looking at the time? Is it looking at the speed? What are you thinking about? And I'm telling you right now, your brain, they call it a runner's high, a biking high, a swimming high, whatever. I did 2,500 yards last night. And it's not to impress you, but when I first start, I'm like, fuck, that was only 7 minutes out of 40. I have another 40 minutes of this. Or last night, I looked at my watch. I was only at 1,000 yards. I'm like, I have another one and a half times what I just swam. And it's degrading to your mind, your mentality. It's not fun. It's hard to push through, especially in a pool, because you're doing the flip turns, you're begging for air, you're exhausted, you're not swimming that hard. It was not a good swim session, as I wrote to my coach. But this is the thing, is that there was a portion where it was 500 yards, no time, or no break, and essentially by probably 300 yards, or 350 or 400, I was unaware. I actually looked at my watch. I was like, holy cow, I only have one more lap left. One more back and forth lap. Today, I zoned in and I said, you know what? Based on the last, actually it was this one in the book that I don't have right now, my visualization is going to get a lot better. I know someone just said, read Psycho-Cybernetics again. So I just ordered that again. Listen, just get in the place where you have to take things away from you. That's it. You just got to take away the things that you know are hurting you. And then you have to replace it. You can't take away alcohol from an alcoholic and expect him to be sober. You have to input that with an activity, with a passion, with something else. And actually, this is going to, let me just, I'm on a tear right now. And actually, it was in Lanny Basham's book. So Lanny Basham has something that I actually took yesterday, which was, if you're on a roll, you keep on going. You keep on shooting. So he was an Olympic shooter. And he says, if you're on a roll, you keep on shooting. And I took that to heart yesterday. I was on a roll on prospecting calls, and I made a lot of extra calls and essentially got 2 extra appointments. Let's see if I could find this. Okay, here it is. So this is from the book, Joseph Campbell, and he talks about meaning. Here we go. This is literally the beginning of the book. Beginning of the book. I just got the price of the book. I don't even care if the rest of this book is good, which it has been. There's religious themes, so if you don't like Jordan Peterson, Jordan Peterson sometimes, he's not as mythologic, and, but listen to this passage. It's only 3 sentences. What you have to do, you do with play. Pretty basic right there. But listen to this. Life is without meaning. Life is without meaning. There's no meaning in life. You bring the meaning to it. The meaning of life is whatever you ascribe it to be. Being alive is the meaning. Let me say that again. Because everyone says, I don't know what to do. I don't know what my passion is. I don't have any awareness. I don't have any aliveness. They're expecting it to be given to them. It's not going to be given to you. And anything that's given to you, as they talk about in the book, is that anything that's given to you is valued less. What if I gave you this calculator? I gave you this calculator and I took it away. You're like, all right. What if you bought this calculator by earning it and then I took it away? You'd say, well, no, I earned that. That's mine. So anything that you actually earn is better. Listen to this again. Life is without meaning. There's no meaning in life, okay? Word is spoken, and that's meaning, which is translated in our consciousness. That I can go really deep into that. Maybe I will in another book or in another video. Life is without meaning. You bring the meaning to it. There's no meaning to life. You bring the meaning to it. The meaning of life is whatever you ascribe it to be. So I'm going to leave that to you. I can tell you right now is that you cannot find anything by being drilled with social media and email and inputs into your brain. Your brain cannot handle it. There's so many things. I'll leave you with these, even though I said that multiple times, is that we can actually have a meal that contains as much sugar as our ancestors used to have in an entire year. We can have a meal that has as much sugar as our ancestors would have for the entire year. Doubly is that we now input more. We can have more input within a week. I think it's now going to be less, as our ancestors would have for the entire year. So input is just the amount of our brain is just processing so much. Look at this. I have 2 monitors. I have a cell phone. I have an iPad over there. I have a camera right here. This is way too much. We need to take this away. Aristotle has talked about walks. Steinbeck has talked about walks. These brilliant thinkers have all talked about what Einstein went on long walks because there was nothing around. I can tell you right now, today when I did not have my headphones, it was probably one of the best times. So hope you guys are doing awesome. Chris L., the Kobe Bryant going to the gym before the game was there. Yeah, exactly. We'll watch on replay. That was deep. Got to write it down. Yeah, just remove the inputs, and I'll leave you guys with that. And I think I'm going to do a lot more book reviews. Joseph Campbell, it's good. I wouldn't recommend it. I don't think you guys would like it because it's not really a practical guide. It's very deep and metaphysical. It's very symbol oriented. So say religious or Hinduism or Confucianism, Christianity, or even today. You know, I like it because I noticed, actually I pieced this together this morning, is that we are waiting, because that meaning thing really hit me. We're waiting for everything to happen to us. And when we're waiting for something to happen to us is that we are now taking so much input that we're waiting and we're waiting. And by the way, this is time passing, okay? Is that we're the first generation that's going to be able to go all the way to 80 or 90 by just living, okay? Just living a normal life. But the problem is there will be mass depression of 80-year-olds and 90-year-olds because they did not create anything. My parents are in their 80s and 90s. Actually, I'm sorry, 70s and 80s. And their happiness is higher because they noticed they created something. They created a life. But all the kids that are going through now, this is duration. They're going to get to 80 or 90, and they're going to look back and they're going to say, I was waiting my whole life for something to change, and nothing changed. There has to be a challenge that you undertake. That challenge is learning an instrument, a new language, a challenge of prospecting, a challenge of going a week without social media, a week without gaming, getting rid of Netflix or Hulu or YouTube. I don't go on YouTube as much anymore. I have 10 minutes a day, and that's usually just to update, say, you know, a thumbnail or to upload a video to BPI's YouTube, and then it locks me out. I have, and by the way, that 10 minutes is between Facebook, Instagram, Amazon, and YouTube. So from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, I only have 10 minutes to be on all 4 of those websites combined. I cannot tell you how much more productive I am because I have to fill that space. That space is not filled with being just inputs of other people's creation. You know, I actually, when I was in the gym this morning, I was thinking about it. I was like, Gary Vaynerchuk is going to go down as a guy he's great, he's awesome, but he's going to go down on the wrong side of history because there's mass suicide of people that have no passion and no living, that are men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and then there's all these people that are hurting themselves that are teenagers because they're waiting for something, or they are looking to the outside instead of the inside. It's a it's a pandemic that we're going to shift the other way, but it's just a matter of, say, you guys, taking up Organize Tomorrow Today, and then I'll just go over the books. Is obviously I already talked about it yesterday. I don't need to go over it again, but just read these 5. Digital Minimalism. Obviously, we already talked about David Goggins. Atomic Habits, Organize Tomorrow Today, and Procrastination Puzzle. Those 5 books, and I'll come up with more. I have a lot more. I have Choke that I'm going to be reading about why people choke, and not like that, but like they choke. All those people that got number 1, picked number 1, and then where are they now? So anyway, I'll leave you guys there. I'll probably come back. I'll probably be done with this, but I might bring up another book review tomorrow. I'm still thinking about it. Have an amazing day.